Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this is episode 100. Today, we're talking about making a band before YouTube, before personal recording studios, back in the 70s. That's right. We're talking to my Papaw, Richard Williams, and he's going to share all about what it was like creating a band in the 70s, because my dad and my aunt and my uncle and some cousins and some other family friends were a really awesome traveling gospel band back in the 70s. And I wanted to talk to Papaw about how that happened. How did that work? What did you do to get started in the 70s when there wasn't YouTube and technology? Y'all, I'm about to learn that before voicemails and answering machines, you actually hired answering services. Wait, you'll figure out about that. In this episode, Papaw talks about leading from your heart. He talks about the importance of taking the time and being willing to recognize and help people find their talent and find their place. We talk about setting goals, making it happen, and along the way, you'll hear some of the recordings of the Tiny Trio, JB and the Tiny Trio, Light, the Williams family, all the rebranding that happens in the 70s and 80s. I can't wait to share this family story with you. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Kaleidoscope Adventures for making this episode possible, and our friends over at the Kinnison Choral Company. Check out all the awesome sponsors over at emilybirch.org/sponsors, or join the community at patreon.com/musicedmatters. All right, let's lead from the heart. Making a band before YouTube. Today on the Music Ed Matters podcast, we are telling stories, and we are sitting down with my Papaw, Richard Williams. Hey, Papaw.
Hi.
I'm so glad we're doing this. Will you tell the listeners, who is Richard Williams?
Well, first of all, I'm your Papaw.
Yes, you are very much my Papaw.
That's important to me and to you.
It's really important to me. We share a lot of
as far as our singing group, I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a musical family. Mm-hmm. My sisters were good enough to be a group back in the early 40s, but my dad not having the money to support that, they never really did anything with it. And that lingered in my mind when I was growing up. And I thought, one of these days, maybe. And as the children came along, as a boy, a girl, and a boy, I thought, we got a trio here.
Okay, hold on. We have to go backwards.
Okay.
Start from the beginning. Were you born in West Virginia? So everybody in the family
Yes,
sings.
all. Even my dad was very musically inclined. All of my sisters played instruments and sang. And then my oldest sister took me under her wing and taught me. And at the age 3, I won the number one group from a big country show. Got myself a big Gibson guitar.
Hold on. At age 3. So you weren't even in school yet. I was about to ask, when did you learn in school? But before you even went to school, your sister.
Yeah, Madeline. Yeah.
She taught you songs, and you entered into a country competition.
Yes. Nashville based.
And they came here to Vienna?
Yes. In fact, I was telling somebody the other day, I was down to Kia Motor. I stood in the very spot that I did 53 years ago. Well, it was 83 years ago.
83 years ago. Yeah. Holy smokes. 80.
80. I was 3 years old when they entered me in that. I sang 3 songs.
Do you remember them?
Yes. When the Lights Go On Again All Over the World, talking about the war.
Okay.
I'm going to I'm going to build a big fence around Texas.
Okay.
And Tweedlo Twill puffing on corn silk.
Do you remember how they go?
Tweedlo Twill puffing on corn silk. Yeah. This one I really like. When the lights go on again all over the world, and the boys come sailing home again all over the world, and there'll be time for things like wedding rings and sweetheart and things when the lights go on again all over the world.
And you sang that at 3?
Yes.
And you won a Gibson guitar?
A big Gibson guitar.
Was it taller than you were?
Oh, yeah, bigger, tall. Yeah, it was bigger than me. Yeah, I was just a little guy.
Okay, so you learned from your sisters. Did you have music in schools when you
yeah, sure. Just like you, I wasn't in the choir. I was too bashful to be in anything really.
I just can't believe that.
But Yeah, I sang in the school choirs and stuff like that, of course,
So what
keeping myself hid.
keeping yourself? Were you like a back row singer?
Very bashful.
Oh man, what
Very-
part did you sing?
Well, lead.
Okay, you always
Yeah.
sang lead.
Yeah.
So you remember being in choir in school?
Yes.
Do you remember your teachers' names?
No.
No, but you remember doing it
Yes, I remember doing it
all the way from grade school, junior high, and high school.
in high school. I do.
So
that.
you sang, and did you sing at church too along this
Oh
whole time?
yes, just like congregation singing. No, I was in the choir. Well, let's back up just a bit.
Okay.
When I lost my bashfulness, I became choir director.
Oh.
So I was doing some singing then, of course.
When you lost your bashfulness.
Yes,
I love that story.
Yes.
So you became the choir director. How
Yes.
old were you then?
Well, I was in my early 20s.
How did you know what to do?
God showed me. I had no formal, training. I just did from my heart. And I had one of the greatest choirs at Briscoe Run Baptist that they sang the roof off the place.
Oh, I bet.
They
I love
did.
it. I led from my heart. I think more directors need to remember that you can
Yes.
lead from your heart. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know how you got instilled into music, how you found your passion. It started with your family and all your awesome sisters. And
Right.
you cultivated it through school. And in your early 20s, you're leading the church choir.
Right.
In your early 20s, you also happen to look down and say, "Thank you, Jesus. I have 3 children," and it makes a trio.
Well, I was selling real estate, and in the real estate office, my brother-in-law, we had a piano.
Okay.
Well, I'd always fooled around with piano ever since I was a tiny tot. So I one day I just got Melody was sitting beside me when I was playing the piano.
Melody's one of the kids, by the way.
Yes, and when all of a sudden I'm singing the song, and she starts singing. I thought, and she's singing on tune. I thought, 3 years old. Melody, do you like this? Oh, Daddy, I love to sing. I said, oh my, wonderful. Eric and Penny feel the same way. That's how it started.
That's how it started.
In the real estate office in the basement, me sitting on the piano bench with Melody, which she was 3 years old. Penny, Eric was 5, and Penny was 6.
All right, so let me catch you up on the people. Eric is my dad, so that would be child number 1.
Right.
Mel is Aunt Melody, and that would be child number 2. We don't have child number 3 yet, so we borrowed a cousin.
Yes.
Because all the sisters were singing, all their kids were
Sure.
singing.
Right.
Okay, so how did you teach them to sing as a trio?
I had hardly anything in it. I was just willing to take the time to correct them when they needed, which was very little. It was a God gift sent from heaven.
They just did it by ear?
Oh, yes, by ear.
Who
And
sang lead?
3 Melody.
Okay, so
And
Aunt
Eric
Mel
sang
lead.
baritone or alto.
Okay.
And then Penny would sing the tenor. And Penny was a great piano player at 6 years old.
So where would you start? So when did you get your first gig? What did your first gig look like?
It was an older group of people. They were having a dinner over at the Methodist church. And the preacher had been in a service where we had sang, and he came to me. He said, could I hire your kids to sing at our dinner? I said, well, yeah. He said, what's her name? I said, I don't know. We don't have a name. He said, you don't have a name? I said, no. He said, well, how about the Tiny Trio? I said, that's it. That's what it'll be. We got up and he introduced us as the Tiny Trio. We sang that way for 8 years. And then JB came along.
Okay.
So we added JB, and then it was JB and the Tiny Trio.
Oh, well, okay. So what year are we in about now?
1972.
We're in 1972. Which one of these albums, if you're watching on YouTube, which one of these albums was the first album? It even says JB and the Tiny Trio on it. Okay, it's a beautiful record. We are looking at a record. It is cream colored with gold cross on it, and it says God's Not Dead, and the band is JB and the Tiny Trio. Wow. Okay, what year did that release?
1972.
All right, so it's 1972. Before we dive deeper into the making of all these albums and the making of a band pre-YouTube, let's talk to one of the original vocalists. Hey, Dad.
How you doing, Emily?
I'm so glad you're here.
It's good to be here with you.
So Dad was Eric. That would be the oldest son of Papaw, who's talking right now. And I want you to fill us in. So Papaw just took us up to 1972. Has he been accurate so far?
Yes, we're spot on.
Okay, now we're about to start talking about albums.
The irony of this question is when in 1970 and 71, my parents, Mamaw and Papaw, paid to let me go to a boys' choir in Massachusetts.
Oh,
So
yeah,
here's
that's
a
right.
hillbilly I auditioned through my sixth grade music teacher, had a gentleman coming from New York City to audition, putting together a boys' choir called the Berkshire Boys Choir. So along with our gospel group, the Tiny Trio, which I was the little tenor singer in, I auditioned and at school for this gig in the summer of 70 and 71.
Which happens to be the same summer that what major
Well, there
performing
was
hall
this
opened?
little venue in D.C. called the John F. Kennedy Center
the
for the
Kennedy
Performing
Center.
Arts, and Leonard Bernstein had written a little
Ditty called the Mass.
a ditty. And so here I was, one of the very few boys that I made the audition, and I went for the summer where we toured the East Coast as the Berkshire Boys Choir, and our conductor was from England. Oh, it was an amazing summer. My second summer, that takes us to 1971, which was the year of the opening of the JFK Center. And so I had just finished at the end of the John F. Kennedy Center opening. We recorded the Mass at RCA Studios in New York City.
That's really cool.
So I'd come out of this pretty decent recording situation.
Okay, and you go back home to
Go
sing
back
in your
home
gospel
and
trio.
we're ready, and we had been working on material and traveling on weekends.
How were you getting these gigs? I'm still confused as to how people knew you existed.
Well, it's a lot like the referral business. When people had heard us, there'd be people from other churches. We ended up doing a lot of church events, either week-long things where we provided the music for a week-long
Like
series of
revival or
meetings,
something, okay.
or it was a weekend, a Sunday morning, a Sunday evening. A lot of churches would have reunions annually where they would celebrate the next year of the life of the church, and so we would have an all-day sing where we'd do the morning, we'd stay for lunch, we'd sing in the afternoon, the evening they'd send us off. But everything, Mom and Dad wanted to make it affordable, and a lot of these churches in the West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania area didn't really have a budget for special music, so we would come for a love offering. And my mom, Alice May, took care of the finances and put that into account where it enabled us to travel, gasoline, eats, some clothing along the way as we started to dress alike.
Yeah.
In the 70s, that's been a leisure
That's
suit.
when you had the leisure suits.
Amen. Oh, man. That might come back if we live long enough.
Yeah, maybe. Do you still have them? Do they still fit?
Well, we wore bell-bottoms then, and I think
Okay,
they're coming
I
back
think those are
now.
back. I think so. Middle
I should have
part.
kept them.
You should have. So you're saving all this money from these free will offerings, and is that
Yes.
what you did? So you
Yeah.
had just come back from New York RCA Studios. Did you tell your dad you wanted to record an album? How did?
No, I think that they had a plan where we needed merchandise really to help us to go to the next place. Mm-hmm. It was like circuit preachers in the very beginning. They would travel from town to town, and they would take up an offering, and that offering would assist them to go to the next place.
Okay.
The passing of the hat deal. Mm-hmm. Now,
So you need merchandise to help with that.
it really helped because we were moving on to a bigger and a better mode of transportation, from a van to a
Winnebago. I heard
Winnebago.
all
We
about,
turned into
we're
a
gonna
bus.
hear about the
Yeah,
Winnebago.
Dad
in a
will tell you
second.
all about that.
Oh yeah, it's coming. Okay, so you were saving the money from these free will offerings. So really, that first album wasn't necessarily a record deal. More so, you guys just went to Nashville and paid to make an album so you could then have merchandise to sell.
Yes. We didn't have a management company. They would actually call the house phone, and Mom would she had a calendar, and she would say, we're available on this date, and she would set up each engagement.
On the house phone.
Yeah, on the house phone. And then she would actually send letters of confirmation we had pictures that had been taken for promotion. Mm-hmm. So we would send those ahead. Mom did a wonderful job. We would go into a small town in the middle of nowhere, and there would be posters of us. We're going to be here at this church on Sunday.
Oh, fun.
So, we We were living the big time. We
Yeah,
had
in the
posters and
70s.
maybe a little ditty in the newspaper.
Oh, whoa. Okay. So now we understand what's going on in 72. We're going to pop back over to Papaw, to Richard Williams, who's going to tell you about that first record recording.
By getting the album, we started singing out further, and having albums. It supplied the money that we needed to travel, what little bit we were traveling. It wasn't a lot.
Okay.
But God was getting us ready to travel.
Okay. So you were like, we got something with the Tiny Trio.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we went to Nashville, and we cut this album here.
In Nashville, on
in
Music
Nashville.
Row.
Yes, Nashville.
So cool.
Yeah, it was nice.
Great. So we had Penny, Eric, Melody, and JB.
Yep, that's the way we sang.
In 72.
Yes.
And so you were singing at people's events. You were singing in churches.
Yes.
You were starting to travel.
And starting to travel and doing fairs and festivals where we was making some money to where we could travel. We had at that time, we had a 72 Winnebago, and we traveled in a Winnebago like that. I tried to keep it still. I was working as a contractor, and my wife Alice would get us ready every Friday evening. She would stock up the Winnebago with food and whatever else, and I'd get home, take a shower, and I'd drive maybe 300 miles for our next appointment that Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. And that's the way we traveled for years, like 50 years.
Really?
50.
Okay. How did you get your music? Where did you find your songs to record?
We had a lady that had a music store. Her name was Sandy Richards, a very talented young lady. She took a liking to my family, and of course, everything that came in to her shop, if she thought it sounded like the Tiny Trio, she wouldn't sell it to anybody else, that she had it for us. So she picked out a lot of her music. But the main source of our music was your daddy. He wrote the music on a lot of our album projects, and we sang a lot of his stuff.
He loves to write.
Oh, he
so
does
creative.
a great job.
He could play anything.
Land of No Goodbyes is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard.
Oh, it's so good. I'll have to see if I can find a recording for you. Oh, it's so good.
In a land where we won't ever die, not a fairy tale from where Jesus promised to prepare a home not made with hands.
Okay, so we're 72, we're traveling, we have JB and the Tiny Trio, and I think I want to pull out this one next. So this was 1976, right?
1976.
All right, so this is called Till the Storm Passes By. It has a new name on it. How did we become the band Light?
Well, we thought, JB and the Tiny Trio, with them end up in their teens, was kind of a
Time to grow
they
up.
they was ready to sign
Time
up.
for a brand
So
change.
we took the people on the group. I had a band by then. Joe Boyd was our bass player, but we sat down one practice and we said we need to change our name. So everybody entered a name. Joe entered that Light with that design.
Oh. It says producer Dick Williams on there. That's you.
That's me.
So you produced the
Oh,
album?
sure
What
did.
is that? What did that mean in the 70s?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
They took our arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
I would play piano for them, and then of course we had a band that we recorded with. They were professional people from Nashville. But I would
studio
play.
band.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I would play a little bit of what I wanted it to sound like, and they could, of course, they play by number, so they could pick it right up, and they would play it, and we picked out that out. In fact, all of our albums, I produced all of them.
And so once you picked out how it was going to sound, you arranged the studio band. Were you part of the mixing process and the finishing process?
Yes, I was.
And what did that look like in the 70s?
Oh, it wasn't this. It was very demanding now, like it is now. It's really demanding, but it was just what sounded good.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you
and
in the studio with them as they were
and-
mixing?
Yes. And they'd ask me, say, how do you like that? Or I'd say, yeah, that's fine. Maybe we can tweak somebody else,
Wow.
Yeah, and then we get a master on it.
Mhm.
Then they'd cut the plastic.
record. Okay, the plastic, the record.
Yeah.
So how did you get from 1972 with JB and the Tiny Trio to this album where it just said you won the National Quartet Convention?
That was
in Nashville?
1976. So that's 4 years from the time that we did our first album in 72. It was 4 years of preparation to get to Nashville. I told them, if you guys really show me that you're interested in doing it, I'll spend everything I got.
So, okay, you set the goal for the kids.
Yes.
They worked for it.
Yes.
They practiced on their own.
I said, you do good, and you'll sing on the stage at the National Quartet Convention, and God honored that.
What year did you give them that option?
72.
You gave it to them in 72.
Yeah, in 72, because I knew we were getting ready to do some taping and recording. So I told them, I said, you do a good job and we work hard, we'll make it to Nashville.
All right, we're interrupting Papaw for a second. Dad, tell me all about the National Quartet Convention.
Well, this was a dream come true for us. As Dad had said, he had told us, you work hard, I'm going to get you on that platform at the National Quartet Convention. And for those of you that know Christian music, the Quartet Convention is the annual event. It was held in Memphis for a while, then Nashville was the hub, and we always dreamed of being a part of that.
How many bands were there?
Well, each year they had a talent search for a new group, and the year we were able to go, there were over 70 groups. And so we went and we performed at that and were chosen as the number one
He's
group.
going to tell you about it in a second.
No doubt. He was there, actually played. I'll never forget that awesome weekend because we came back after we won it. We performed that night with the groups that were professional. So they brought us up as the winner of the contest to do our song. And it was magical.
Oh, cool. Okay, so Papaw's going to tell us a little bit more about his remembrance from the Quartet Convention. But we're talking about the album that was recorded after you won. So
That's right.
You're in high school now, so you're no longer JB and the Tiny Trio. You've become light because you're like, what, 16, 17?
I'm 17,
Okay.
yes, in high school.
Okay, good. No longer the Tiny Trio. I'm glad we grew up from that. Rebranding was very
That was a
smart
great
there.
day.
Yes, good. I'm glad. So this album, after you won, the Quartet Convention paid for you to record another
Yes,
album.
it was one of the perks of winning the contest. So by winning, they paid for a recording for us. And
Where did you do it?
well, I want to say it was in Asheville, North Carolina, but we did something at Queen City in Cincinnati as well. So I'm
think
sorry that I don't remember
That's
exactly.
okay. You've recorded in Nashville, Queen City, Asheville, and didn't you record at least something in Parkersburg?
We did 2 albums at Sweet Song Productions, which was our electric guitar player owned a studio and did quality product from there. He was a radio personality in our town.
Oh, cool.
So Roger Hoover was Dave McDowell on the radio of WPAR. We grew up, everybody thought, oh, if I could just meet him. And then he became our guitar player and had a studio where, people would come from adjoining states to record country, gospel, rock. He had a great studio. So he's like, hey, y'all come in. And we were doing backup vocals for other people.
Oh,
and so
fun.
we were
so
going.
you guys were studio musicians
We were doing
too.
studio stuff vocally. And so Dad put together, said, we got some songs. We did one original, all songs that I had written. And then that's one that Joe did the artwork on. I think it was called Homegrown.
Oh, cool.
And so he did the state of West Virginia, and it zeroed in on our little area of West Virginia.
Teeny town of Parkersburg, Indiana.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. Okay, so we're going to pop back over to Papaw and pick up where we're talking about after the Quartet Convention and recording that album. But I needed some clarification because I wasn't sure. You'd recorded so many different places.
I didn't really clarify, but I know that it was a high-class studio with musicians that played. It was amazing.
What I'm hearing as we're comparing today to the 1970s family band is that you had to go a lot of places to A, build awareness for your ensemble, and B, record. Whereas today we have things like YouTube and this little studio that we're sitting in right now. You can do it at home or do it from the laptop. It's just so many things have changed.
Thank God for technology.
But it's so cool to
It's
hear your
opened up
story.
the entire world.
It really has. Okay, let's get back to it. Okay, so you set the goal for the kids in 72 to make it to the National Quartet stage. What told you that you were ready in 1976 to go do it?
The amount of appointments that we were getting.
Okay. How many gigs? Would you have a gig every weekend?
Oh, yes.
Multiple gigs a weekend?
Oh, yes.
Were you on the road all weeks of the year?
Most of the time. Well, yeah, all the time. Yeah, we got caught in snow in December. Yeah, we sang a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, Alice took care of our, that's my wife, took care of all of our engagements. And
She was the manager. You
Yes.
were the producer. She was
yes,
the manager.
yes, yeah.
And,
And the mom.
and the mom. You were the dad. Very
Yeah,
important jobs.
right.
How did you get the gigs? There wasn't, did
Word of mouth.
completely word of mouth.
People would come and be in our concert who had never heard Light before. And then we would be most of the time bombarded by people wanting us to come to their church or sing at their function. And that's the way we started. And it worked that way our whole 50 years. We never asked for any place to sing. We always had, God always provided us places.
And did they call and leave messages on the voicemail?
Oh, yeah.
Or,
We didn't have voicemail.
So how did they get you messages?
Well, we had a recording. Of course, we
Okay.
had an answering service. And
Oh.
Yeah,
An answering service.
Yeah.
Pre-voicemail.
Yes.
Answering service.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'm
that way we'd
following.
get the people who would say, we're interested in booking your group. And I'd take into consideration, number one, I always ran the sound.
Okay.
I would never let them stand before somebody else running sound. That was one of the criteria.
Okay. It was on your rider.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, we were very successful for a while.
Okay. Tell me about the actual stage in Nashville. Walk us through the whole Quartet convention.
They started out, of course, we signed up, and they had us at a certain time in the program. And when it came time for Light to take stage, we sang Till the Storm Passes By. We had probably in attendance right around 1,000 to 1,500 people. They went absolutely bonkers.
Who wrote Till the Storm Passes By?
Oh, it's an old song.
Old Goody?
Yeah, it's an old,
Okay.
an old Methodist song. But we came up, and Willie Wynn, who was with a group himself, after we got through singing, he came back up. He said, "Man, I'm glad our group don't have to follow that."
Till the storm passes over, till the thunder sounds no more, till the clouds roll forever from the sky. Hold me fast, let me stand in the hollow of thy hand. Keep me safe till the storm passes by. Till the storm passes over, till the thunder sounds no more, till the clouds roll forever from the
And so what they did, they said, okay, they went through all these 72 groups. And then they said, we're going to call out in not alphabetical order. and no order at all. These are the groups that made it the first 10 groups.
Okay.
And our name was put first.
How
And I thought,
awesome.
is this something going on here? So when we got up, they wanted us to sing the very same thing. We had JB already in his nice tux. He was going to sing for our second song, but they wanted the same thing.
What were you going to sing for your second song?
Well, it was the 10,000 Years.
10,000 Years. How could I not remember that?
In fact, the guy that wrote the song was producing our album, and that was in Nashville at Hilltop Studio.
Oh, okay.
So when it got time for him to sing it for this recording, he got up and sang the song like he'd never sang it before.
Because the producer
changed everything. Wait, no, he did it himself.
Really?
Didn't tell us he was going to do it. Got up there, but boy, he went sky. I'll play it for you after we get
Okay, after we're done, we're listening to records.
It's something. It's something.
I'll see if I can get some recordings of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's 8, he goes up, and they ask for the same song again.
Yes. So then, of course, JB doesn't get to sing.
Oh, he doesn't sing in that one?
No,
Okay.
no. We had Penny and that band.
That band played.
Yeah,
Okay.
minus JB. But anyway, we sang it again, and so then came the selection of the groups. Number 1, number 3, number 4, number 2, and when he hit number 1, said light. I'm telling you, I about fainted.
Did you really?
We had won the Prestige in the United States.
And what did you get for winning?
We got a recording, which is
That's this one of these.
I think doing fairs and festivals, probably in the early 80s. We were going out further
Okay.
because we had to, but we were being the guitar player, bass player. His job moved him to Illinois. Dean Fluharty and was married to my niece Nancy, and they just I don't know why they left, but they left the group, and we were stuck with just JB Melody and Eric.
And then who played? You just had keys, or did you have tracks?
We had tracks then.
Okay.
And
when did we start making tracks?
Oh, we started doing tracks probably in the early 90s, maybe.
And would you have to go in the studios to make
No,
those?
no.
How'd you make them?
Well, we recorded the song. We didn't even practice. That one album we did when you all lived up in up north there, we practiced on the phone. Went to the studio and cut the record that way.
Wow.
They didn't have to have practice.
They'd been singing together so long.
Yeah.
So they sang together
50
for
years. 50
That's
years.
amazing. All right, this isn't all the albums. How many albums did you make in total?
I think there was 10 or 11. About one a year I did. Yeah.
You stopped, so you did about one a year, and you stopped traveling in 07.
Yes.
All right, so let's
At that time, we had Rennie
Oh, yeah, that's right.
and JB and Melody.
That's right.
Because your dad moved. Of course, he moved out.
Yeah, we moved way across the country.
Yeah. So, that's when we took on Rennie. And Rennie was with us for 15 or 17 years.
So you kept traveling and
Yeah.
gigging all the way through all the way to 2007.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask some questions.
Okay.
This is prior to Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, whatever your social media device is. Now that you're seeing all these bands that are making it on YouTube, does that change how you would have approached it? Or do you think you would have approached the whole becoming a traveling gospel ensemble the same way?
I think we would do the same thing as we did. I don't know of a thing that we would change.
Mm-hmm.
Of the multitudes of people who got saved under our ministry.
Yeah.
We had a healing ministry also. So, no, we wouldn't change a thing. God
so
was
much word of mouth.
God was in the whole thing for us all the time. That little trio.
And it all started because you were playing piano in the
Yeah,
basement.
and I liked music. And It shocked me that that Melody at 3 years old could sing tenor, alto, or lead.
She
3
could
years
sing all
old.
the parts.
All the parts.
She could hear them.
Oh, sure.
So do
No
you think
problem.
talent is innate or trained or both?
I think it's probably both.
Okay.
But more so, I think through the Holy Spirit that they had beautiful, well, they still can
They
sing.
still can sing.
Yeah.
They still sing to this day, all
Yes,
three of them,
Sure, they do.
in a lot of capacities.
Yes.
All right,
Yeah.
what's your favorite memory, your favorite performance?
76 in Nashville.
Oh, I was going to say, if that's not your favorite.
Well, that had to be I thought, and the kids too. Yeah, I mean, they felt really good after we got this. We bought suits to match. Where'd them white ones go?
This one. This is the white suits.
Yeah, that's what we bought to wear in Nashville.
All those
We thought we were the king of it.
Oh man, y'all!
Yeah.
If you can't see it, they all
right
have
there.
on these white suits. Here,
Yeah.
flip it around.
Yeah,
That's so cool. They look so snazzy.
yeah, they do.
So you got all matching white suits.
Yeah.
So this says in the corner, it says it's stereo. Were all of your albums recorded in stereo
Yes.
sound? Okay.
Even this one.
Even the first one.
Yes.
That was kind of a newish technology by
See,
then. early
stereo?
70s. Yeah, stereo on the top.
And this guy right here, when JB sang on this album, 10,000 Years, the guy who produced this whole album wrote that song.
Mm-hmm.
And after JB got through singing it, he was just crying.
Oh,
He
that's
said
so
it was
cool.
wonderful.
We'll have to go listen to it in a second.
Yeah, good.
All right, so I have a couple roundup questions at the end.
Okay.
So for teachers who are listening, educators who are listening, it's teaching stuff. It's a tough job. It's time consuming and emotionally draining, and especially now after COVID. Knowing what you know now, looking back on life and how music impacted your family, what encouraging word would you give to a music teacher listening today?
We were so blessed to have good music teachers all the time that the kids were in school. Blessed that they took a liking to them and really worked on their talent and would use them in performances by themselves to show their talent. And I think really one of the highest things, it kept our family so close.
Mm-hmm.
We never had one single problem with any of our kids. They were just excellent. Well, they were singing all the time, so they didn't have trouble.
They didn't have any time to get in trouble. They were singing.
And they respected the teachers who took the time to give them what they studied to give, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, it always helps to have. You don't ever get to where you've learned it all.
Right.
There's still always opportunity to use your talent, especially singing. And we love music. We wouldn't trade a thing.
No.
50 years of it.
That's so cool. Okay. And what is, you've already said that always keep growing. I always let the guests give one thing that really matters, like the one piece of wisdom you want the listener to walk away from today's episode with. What's the one thing you want to tell them?
Don't lose hope. There's always a better today and tomorrow and down the road. And you never get too old that you can't learn something.
I love it. That's perfect. Thanks for doing this, Papaw.
You're welcome, sweetie.
This was fun.
Thank you so much for listening. It's fun to share stories of how we got to where we are and how we were influenced. I hope that you are thinking of people in your life that have influenced you to where you are today, or experiences that have impacted the person that you are today, from the music that you listen to the nostalgia, to the things that get you through. Whatever it is that makes you, that gives you hope, I hope that you are tuning into that today. Thanks for letting me share a little bit of my story with my papa and my dad. I hope that this has been a fun little adventure while you listen. Now, in case no one has told you today, you matter. We all know that music ed matters, especially the music involved in putting together ensembles and bands and family bands and gospel music and so many things. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.
You want to do your whistle? I'm working on mine. I'm learning. I just learned that this morning.
Very good.
Pretty good.
Very good. Very, very, very.
How did
We'll
you do
teach you
that?
how to do that. There's an art to it.
That was
pretty good.
Very few in the family can do this.
Hey, the two of us got it.
Just, yeah. That's all done with your tongue.
Yeah.
Point your tongue and stick it in the roof of your mouth. Can you whistle like that?
Oh, the roof of your mouth?
You have to have your tongue pointed and stuck in the roof of your mouth, and
I whistle my.
and then when you move your tongue,
Yeah. I need to learn that.
your tongue. I'll teach you
I
that.
know, go ahead.
Okay.
So the kids performed all through school.
Yes.
Were they also in their school ensembles? I
Yes,
know the answer to this.
Sure. And they always were picked out to do solos. And
I mean, I know all about all their choir teachers. I'm pretty sure I am a choir teacher today because of all the stories Dad told me of
I'm
his
sure.
choir teachers.
I'm sure that.